The hosts feel it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to. Well, we've warned you.
Hello and welcome once again to the Frankencast. I'm the mad scientist Anthony Bowman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined as always by...
the small monkey man that will eventually become two separate, larger monkey men. That is Eric Velazquez. My pronouns are also he, him.
All right, yeah, so this movie is, it's an interesting one. So we're watching War of the Gargantuas this week, and this is another one of the dual, Toho American International Productions. So there's, you've got some American actors. It's primarily Japanese actors. So I went back and watched them both. We're going to mostly be talking about the Japanese version. Mm-hmm. They're not that different this time around. There's really very few changes, except that they just kind of subtly removed any reference to Frankenstein in the American version.
Yeah, right. So the alternate name for this is Frankenstein no Kaiju Sanda Gaira, or... Frankenstein, the large monster, Sanda versus Gaira.
Yeah, and I guess it's funny, now American film is so, overrun with reboots and sequels and remakes. We're wanting franchises. That's mm-hmm. What keeps the American Film Institute afloat, or industry afloat, is, these trusted known properties. But I kind of got the impression that maybe at this time, they wanted things that could stand alone, so you didn't feel I haven't seen this other one, so I can't watch this second one,
Right, or at least it referenced the previous version ever so slightly, that it could be its own thing, regardless of whether you've seen it or not.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I guess part of that is just accessibility. If you missed a movie in the theaters back then, you're just kind of out of luck, unless you catch it at, a repertory theater that brings it back or something, whereas now, we can... find it on Netflix or download it or buy the Blu-ray or whatever. So people are more familiar with, they can catch up on past work a lot more easily.
Yeah, there definitely wasn't VHS at that time.
Yeah. So yeah, but other than that, they're basically the same movie. It's just the American one just calls it Gargantuas and never references Frankenstein really at all.
Right. So I've got a theory.
Okay, yeah, let's hear it.
All right, so... a lot of the actors from the previous version, except for the American actor, they've returned, right? We have Kumi Mizuno, but this time she's not Sueko Togami. She's Akemi Togawa.
Yeah, I noticed that too. It's the names are similar, but they're not the same.
So here's my proposition. Because we've had everything's ever so slightly similar, we don't have Dr. Bowman anymore. We now have Dr. Stewart, played by Russ Tamblyn, a.k.a. Riff from West Side Story, a.k.a. Dr. Jacoby from Twin Peaks. And it's also the what we will know as the Frankenstein monster. Basically, everything happened very similarly to the last movie, except for... obviously, he looks different now, so maybe the atomic bomb dropping on him changed his cells so much that he's now basically generating... well, he was generating brand new cells last time whenever something got knocked off of him. His hand getting chopped off and then coming to life on its own only to die later when he didn't get protein. But in this case, everything's ever so similar, but there's just enough subtle differences that it is its own universe.
Yeah, and even, the creature himself, in the last movie, he looked like Frankenstein, mm-hmm. Like what we're used to seeing, the flat top head and everything. And in this, he is just basically like a little monkey boy.
Right. Yeah, it is Yeah, that's another difference, obviously. But he was actually getting, developing hair on his body as he was like growing in height.
Yeah, in the original, yeah. So it's like, yeah, I think that's actually a really good, well, and, not to mention that, we talked a lot last week about that there was this alternate ending that we watched with this giant octopus that wasn't in the original, or the theatrical run of the film, and this one starts with a giant octopus, so it's almost like, yeah, the giant octopus verse or something, like this is...
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess that's, so that's how the movie starts, basically. We've got a guy piloting a boat, and tentacles start coming through the windows and grabbing him, and it looks like the boat's going to get pulled under. You got, the pretty traditional scene, like the Kraken type scene of like tentacles all wrapped around the boat, and it looks like it's going to be it for this little boat and its crew.
Yeah, almost like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, right?
Yeah, exactly. But then in this case, the octopus is thwarted by a giant ape-like creature that comes up out of the water, and it kind of fights off the octopus. But then it's strange because it's not really rescuing the boat. It, like, as soon as the octopus flees, he just starts rocking the boat himself. Like, he's not really trying to help the people out. He's just
he just wanted to scare the monster off so he could have them.
Just looking for a fight.
Right, exactly. But I mean, he shakes it violently, though.
And the miniature work in this looks so cool. Like, I mean, it's just like a guy in like a, shallow pool, I guess, with a very detailed boat. But it looks really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that all the composite shots look better. The miniatures look better. There's no weird horses or boars that don't belong, that are just painted little miniatures. Yeah, so if you're looking for a great FX movie, this is one of the best kaiju movies or one of them, not the best, but it's up there in my book.
Yeah, I'd say it's definitely up there. And it's like one that a lot of people don't know. So if you're looking for something new and interesting, this is definitely one worth checking out. Mm-hmm. So then we get like the man in the from the boat in the hospital, like after the attack. So he survived and kind of is like moaning, and it's one of those scenes where like the police are trying to like get some clue as to what's going on, and he's just too out of it. But then he finally like gets one word out, and it's Frankenstein.
Frankenstein. I love it. It was so dramatic.
Yeah. And so the police are kind of discussing. The other 4 crew members haven't been found. They send out like divers and search parties, and it's just they can't find anything. But as is common in these monster movies, like the police aren't quick to believe the monster angle. So they're like, maybe they were smugglers. Maybe there's got to be some kind of angle on what's going on here that he's using Frankenstein as an excuse, which is, I guess kind of lends credence to your possible alternate universe thing, is because the police should know that there was a giant Frankenstein monster, and also, Baragon, this underground dweller tearing up towns all over Japan. Japan's, it's a relatively small island. Everybody knows everybody's business. If a giant monster happens, everybody there's going to know about it. But
yeah, I feel like, obviously, as we're going to find out, there is a Frankenstein Research Institute coming up pretty soon. So they all know it happened, but maybe it's been pushed out of their mind. It's been so many years after the fact. It's kind of like in all the 80s slasher movies. Once they get about 3 movies deep, it's like, no, that's just a legend at this point, right?
Yeah, surely this camp's safe. That's just a campfire tale, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so then you get then the police, they go back and speak to the captain of the boat in the hospital, and he, mentions, I think he mentions again, like, that it was this Gargantua, this Frankenstein-like creature. It kind of bounces back and forth. Then you get the police, like, looking at clothes they found in their wreckage, and they're like, it looks like this was chewed up. So you just kind of get, like, a little bit of, like, and really this movie is kind of a police procedural in a way. Like, it's a mystery, who did this, what's happened, even when we finally do see that there was a Gargantua, then it becomes like, why did the Frankenstein monster that was, seemingly good in the last movie, now, he's like cannibalistic and violent, and what's going on. So, it plays out like a mystery, and it's a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, no doubt. They definitely bring in all of the divers and everything to start searching for evidence. It's almost to a degree kind of Lovecraftian, in that we do see that there's a monster, but then again, there's a lot of research and a lot of background investigation that's done by the main cast that basically is, as you said, trying to uncover this mystery that's underlying the whole movie.
Yeah, and they even like hold off on like, obviously, this is the War of the Gargantuas, so we know there's two, but they hold off on giving you that information in the movie for quite a while. Like they do kind of build up the suspense of like, did this one monster do all of this and why?
Yeah, spoiler, obviously, the other monster is more benevolent than this one. But yeah, 45 minutes in, basically halfway through this movie, that's when we're going to see him.
Yeah. So then we get like the police and I think some like reporters. They go and talk to, they go to the Frankenstein Institute that you were talking about, and that's when we re-meet our trio of doctors, although it kind of this time, there are three, but then like the third guy kind of just like goes into the background, and it's mainly Tagawa and Dr. Stewart,
right.
Rust Hamblin. Their sort of like dynamic is the sort of central part of the story.
Yeah, but I've noticed that as opposed to the previous two cast members, there's not at all a romantic subplot. It's like they're close, but it's like purely platonic. There's no, hey, you're coming over to my house to have some dinner, right?
Yeah, and she calls him professor. It almost seems like she's like an apprentice to him almost.
Right.
And so, yeah, they kind of get interviewed, and Dr. Stewart is like, yeah, Frankenstein could be alive again. He's that's what he does. He regenerates, but no, he wouldn't kill people. He wouldn't eat people, and he wouldn't live in the sea. So this doesn't make any sense. This can't be Frankenstein.
Yeah, he definitely wanted to move towards colder climes, but he was definitely a more terrestrial being, right?
Oh, yeah.
But of course, then we have a little bit of a flashback towards the baby monkey as opposed to the young teenager with the flat top.
Yeah, and it's kind of a similar scene to what we saw in the last movie. They just redone it with a new creature. So like you've got Dr. Tagawa, and she's like feeding him and like giving him a little bottle of milk and teaching him how to drink out of a straw and everything. But yeah, I mean, like, it's that same sort of like that he's very food driven and that he's being kind of cared for while he's being sort of not experimented on, but like investigated. That they're not completely treating him just like an experiment. Like he's being cared for.
Yeah, definitely. And she's obviously taking on the motherly role, but as you said, there's less mutilation of this creature, at least that we've seen, right?
Yeah, nobody's talking about chopping off limbs on this one.
Right, exactly.
And then we get another scene of like a boat being attacked, and like I think it's supposed to be the original boat. We're just getting more footage of what happened. It's kind of unclear though.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be another fishing trawler, but then we see that as these some of the fishermen are looking over the side, oh no, it's this massive green Frankenstein creature.
And that scene looks so cool too, with him under the water, like shooting through the water like that.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And of course, he rises from the water and wrecks everything and crushes, or like grabs all the people, like catches them, paying more credence to the possibility that the other 4 crew members were eaten.
Yeah, definitely. And then we get a drawing of what looks like a merman, but also the actual, I believe, kanji actually references Frankenstein.
Okay. And so then we get the doctors there kind of discussing the mystery, what they should do about it. You get like this scene where the police are inspecting a bunch of damaged boats on the shore. And that's where they find like their first sort of like DNA evidence or whatever. They find like a little chunk of flesh or something from the creature. And then, so, okay, they find the stuff, and then we go back to the doctors who are like now climbing a mountain. They had heard like rumors that there was, that there were some footprints found.
Right.
And so they go to look, and it looks like, it looks like Frankenstein, it's giant, humanoid ape-like feet prints. So it seems unlikely that a creature could have been in the water and then also on this mountain in like this small window of time.
And this was the original Frankenstein monster's kind of MO, as we mentioned earlier. He likes to go to mountains, likes to go to cooler temperatures, but once again, still on land.
Yeah. But then you got other scientists while they're doing that who get the DNA from the boats, and they start looking at it through a microscope, and it looks like Frankenstein cells. So things are, it's odd. Like, things aren't quite adding up. We've got what appears to be Frankenstein in two places at the same time, and then we get this great scene at the airport. At the Haneda airport, where the creature rises up out of the sea, and this is, like the most like classic kaiju scene in the movie. You got the composite people in the front running, screaming, building smashing. He pulls a woman out of a window and eats her. It's just all the stuff you want out of a good kaiju movie.
But what does he do after he eats her? He spits her clothes out, right? Huh. All right.
Yeah.
So that explains that.
So definitely this is the creature that destroyed the boat. Mm-hmm. And then the clouds kind of break and a beam of sun comes down and hits the creature, and he just like takes off running into the ocean.
Right, he can't stand it. It's too bright. It's very kind of fantasy element to it, right? Sunlight comes out and drives away the monster.
Yeah, we've definitely seen some of that in the movies we've been watching. Mm-hmm. And real quick, while we're so that scene, there's a lot going on, and there's like the building breaking, and then the sort of like acrobatic running that's kind of a new thing for a kaiju. So in this kaiju, the green Frankenstein monster, and also in the last movie, Baragon, were both played by Haruo Nakajima, who is like the father of creature monster, like suit creature monsters. He was the original Godzilla in the first movie, and has played so many kaiju over the years. And like, I totally didn't catch that he was Baragon in the last movie. So I definitely wanted to like mention him because he is the coolest. And if you watch a lot of the movies that he's in and like clock which creature he's playing, he plays them totally different. Like you would think it's just like guy in a big suit knocking over building. There's not much to it. But then you watch like Godzilla walks different than Baragon walks.
Right. And
they both walk different than, this Frankenstein monster that we're seeing here. Like the movements, the body language, it's all very different. Like he was putting a lot of physicality and acting into what could have been like very rote and silly and repetitive.
Right. And going back to that, the Frankenstein creatures, kind of hearkening to the last movie, they're very agile. They have a lot more movement. They do a lot of rolls in their combat. So I mean, that physicality is definitely, it's nice to see that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then once he goes into the ocean, then we get the doctors being like swarmed by reporters asking about the airport, kind of continuing. This investigation that sort of goes on with the human storyline as it goes, and then they end up going to a conference. And they're like on a train, like, how do you feel about going to this conference where we feel like people are going to just be wanting to kill the monster? And they're like, well, we have to go and see what we can find out and tell them what we know and maybe sway the situation. And this is where you first get the mention of like, maybe there's two, like maybe that would explain all of this.
Yeah. 'Cause they do mention that there's kind of been another sighting on the mountain versus the one from the sea.
Yeah. And then the conference, it's almost like a press conference. You've got like reporters asking a lot of questions, and Dr. Stewart, says that like they still want to try to use Frankenstein for research if they can safely, capture him without killing him.
Isn't that always the way? Research,
scientists,
yeah, science, yeah. Exactly. But I believe the army, I guess he's a general, decides that he wants to use electricity on all of Tokyo Bay to get the creature.
Yeah, and like nobody ever at no point is anyone like, what about like the fish and the other things that are in the water? No one brings that up at all. I guess environmentalism was not really much of a thing at this point.
Yeah. Conservation was definitely the last thing to be thought of. It seems like.
Yeah. So then we go to another music club, which is like the thing for these movies that like appeal to the youth. This time it's not so much rock and roll. It's more like it's this woman singing with like a big band. It almost kind of has like a Burt Bacharach kind of like jazz pop vibe going on. And she's singing in English.
Yeah. By the way, that would be Kip Hamilton, who is our singer.
Oh, okay.
Yep. She sings a song that will get stuck in your head called Stuck in My Throat. So be prepared for that.
And then, of course, as you would expect, the Gargantua shows up, grabs the singer, and is about to eat her. And again, like this, they do a really good job here of like, you've got like the creature suit actor and like the, human who is, and like they do a lot with the size where it works out, and they've got like a giant hand that they lay her in. And it like edited together, it looks really good. Like It's very believable that she's actually being picked up.
Yeah, I mean, there's, as we said earlier, it's not chintzy. You definitely, I mean, you can still see the seams, but for the time, everything was well composited. Everything was put together really well. And yeah, as you stated, you believe that this woman is being picked up by a giant monster and getting ready to be eaten.
Yeah, and so then they, after knowing about what happened at the airport, they decide to turn on all the spotlights around the stage and everything. Just turn on all the club lights, and it works. The Gargantua drops the singer, and she falls kind of hard. Like it looks like they must have used a stunt person or something, because it does not look like a simple fall. And then he just takes off back into the ocean.
Definitely, and at that point, I believe. Yep. Everyone is told to turn on their lights in the cities of Kyoto, I believe, or Tokyo.
Yeah, so it's like clear. Yeah, I guess, now that we've seen this works more than once, it's like, yeah, they have like the police cars driving around blasting sirens, the radio's telling people, it's kind of just like an all points bulletin. We need everybody lights on all the time so that we can keep the creature away.
Right. This is the anti-dad movie. Turn on all the lights in the house at all times.
Yeah, and so then like the next scene, we get like the army rolling out again. You got the little tanks, heading out into villages and stuff. And again, you get that Akira Ifukube army music that's kind of martial music. It's real cheerful and positive and stuff. And this is actually, like, I noticed that in the American version, they put different music there. They put like intense, serious army music instead of like the kind of fun army music that Ifukube use.
But that's also kind of the signifying of the era, right? We're getting ready to go into a, spoiler alert, a bad war for America. But, Japan's kind of de-armed, and they're like, it's not so serious as it is in America at this time.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, we actually have some, it looks like, I think we've seen these in a few Godzilla movies, but it literally looks like just sci-fi laser beams on the tops of these tanks and personnel carriers.
Yeah, so I actually was going to talk about that. The first time they talk about them, they say like bring out the lasers, and I was like, oh, that's weird, because in the Godzilla movies they always call them masers with an M. But later on in this movie they do refer to them as masers. And actually, apparently, this is actually the first appearance of those. Oh, they weren't in the earlier, and I mean, they're all over the later Godzilla movies. Okay. But yeah, it's this movie, and Maser is a real thing. Like, I thought, like, it was just like, oh, they were just, it's kind of like phasers in Star Trek. It's like, what's one letter better than a laser? Just switch to, yeah. But apparently it's like microwaves. I don't think it's anything like what they're showing here, but that Maser is a real thing. It's some sort of microwave amplified something or other. So I learned something new.
Right. Whereas, laser's what, light amplified, basically the kind of equivalent just with light versus the actual microwave.
Yeah.
Rays. Yeah.
Yeah. So they've got those kind of surrounding the creature. They set a bunch of bonfires. They kind of like trap him, and he like sort of ducks behind the trees. And there's this part kind of threw me off, because it seems like he's just like crouched down behind some trees. And then there's like a little short clip that looks like he's like in water or something. And I thought like the other Gargantua had showed up, but it hadn't. I was really kind of thrown off by that. But they eventually, like, there's just that one scene, and then they start shooting tanks at him. He starts picking up tanks and throwing them at houses.
Yeah, just chucking them wholesale like baseballs. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's really great.
But it's then the soldiers decide, oh no, we're getting our butts kicked. Let's fall back. Let's do a retreat here for a bit. But turns out that was a feint.
Yeah, so then they start. That's when like they start really kind of building up all the laser equipment and everything. Then we see like a Gargantua like washing in a stream, and there's like.
Can we take one step back? I don't want to interrupt you, but like, so the lasers are actually causing battle damage to this one.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. There's some really cool like effects where like chunks of you see like pink underneath. You know, like there's like big chunks of skin getting like blasted off by this stuff.
And it looks like they actually set the suit on fire for just a second, like at different intervals. And that could be another composite shot, but it literally looked like they had some of the powder from like firecrackers, and they just ignited that real quick on the suit.
Oh yeah,
as the masers hit. But also, I just want to tell you, I wrote a really crappy joke that I'm very proud of. We're going to learn that this creature's name eventually is Gaira, and as I was writing my notes, I decided to write down. Turns out the masers are setting Gaira on fire. So, okay. So.
Yep, definitely worth it.
Yep. Okay. I just needed confirmation for that.
But yeah, so like you said, he gets all this battle damage and kind of burns and stuff. So then that's where he's like kind of in the stream. Mm-hmm. He's sort of like washing his wounds basically, and then you get like these choppers circling overhead, and so he kind of like flees again, stomps through a bridge headed towards the army. Like, so yeah, there's just this kind of goes back and forth where you get a lot of like army attacking, creature attacking back, and then you get these great moments where he just like jumps and knocks helicopters out of the sky, and they like hit the ground and explode in these big fireballs. It looks really cool.
Yeah. That's probably one of my favorite scenes of the movie, just where he just keeps like reaching over his head just a little bit, and then they come a little bit closer and he just jumps up, grabs them, and throws them down.
Yeah. And again, it's like the miniature work there looks so good. Mm-hmm. And yeah, but at this point, like they attack him, like they hit him with so much of those like maser blasts that he like kind of crawls away.
Yeah, they're taking out his ankles, right?
Yeah, and he kind of just like falls into the river and just like kind of appears like he may be dead or dying, and then we get the second Gargantua appearing.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, he kind of just like picks up his brother and carries him away.
Right. This one's brown, right? Or
yes.
They say he's brown. He looks kind of blonde. I mean, blonde, brunette, maybe sandy blonde, but yeah, that's.
He's definitely more of like a Bigfoot looking creature. Like, I mean, the coloration and everything, it just looks more like a traditional ape as opposed to like, this strange sort of green creature.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. It's like, well, we're going to learn that the brown one's named Sanda. The green one is Gaira, but it's like Gaira is more aquatic. Looks like he has scales on his body. Sanda kind of looks like he does too, but not to the extent that Gaira does.
I almost wonder if the green is like, like algae or seaweed kind of growing in his fur too.
Yeah, we'll get to his origins, or at least what they say it is.
Yeah, so yeah, this is pretty much when we kind of find out, like the military just sort of says like, we have decided to designate the sea Frankenstein as Gaira and the mountain Frankenstein as Sanda. And the American version just goes with green and brown. Right. They don't even try to.
Why give them names? They're Gargantuas. Come on.
So real quick, I wanted to talking about these names. So like I have like the Toho DVD set of this. It's like this and Rodan together for some reason. I don't know why they're packaged together, but that's the way they are. And all over the packaging, it refers to. The green creature as being Gaira with an R. Mm-hmm. But then the subtitles in the actual movie on this same disc say Gaila with an L.
Right.
And, so I actually talked to our friend Alex, who is like fluent in Japanese, because I wanted to make sure that like I was on the right page here. Like, we've obviously heard there's a lot of like stereotypes and jokes about L's and R's in Japanese and Asian languages and stuff. So I wanted to make sure I kind of understood why that was happening and just kind of clear it up in case there was any confusion. So it's not that the Japanese language is missing a sound that the English language has. It's that they have a different sound that we don't, that is actually kind of in between an R and an L.
Right.
It's kind of like a Spanish rolled R, like it's Gaira. And so when they have to anglicize spellings with English letters as opposed to the kanji letters, they kind of just have to pick one. And it varies. That's why you see like Godzilla and Gojira, which to us look like two totally different words, but to a Japanese speaker, those would be pronounced the same.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of the same thing, just in case you were wondering why the name might be spelled differently, and it's not a racist thing or a joke or anything. It's just trying to fit Japanese words using American letters or English letters. Right. You kind of have to pick a side, and depending on the word, sometimes it can vary. And in this case, different people might interpret it different ways.
Well said.
So once they designate, then you get like the army is looking for clues. They're trying to track them down, and Dr. Stewart's like, well, I think Gaira is probably the one that you need to sort of be thinking about because he's got to stay near water to survive. So they're probably somewhere near a body of water.
And he's clearly the more dangerous of the two anyway. Or at least that's what they assume. Because at this point they're like, oh, Sanda is the one that we raised until he escaped. Yeah.
So then at this point, I think like the doctors kind of come upon like tissue samples from both of the creatures, run them under a microscope, and then they kind of have this conversation like, what is their relation to one another? And it's like, they're not exactly brothers. It's not exactly father and son. They're almost clones.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Except for one has a little bit more plankton in his genes.
Yeah. So this is a part that actually kind of does reference back to the last movie. Dr. Stewart believes that when Frankenstein in the last movie went to Lake Biwa, like the part where there's like the teens on the party boat and he shook the boat up, that he must have like knocked off some DNA into the water there, and that is where Gaira was like born, basically, was within the waters of that lake.
Right. But they still have kind of a brother relationship, and I think in the American version, they're just like, these guys are brothers.
Yeah. So then we like, as they've been talking about, like these creatures regrow or heal or revive using like protein. So Gaira being like in the water is getting like aquatic protein from plankton and whatever, and so of course that's just going to turn him more into an aquatic kind of creature. Mm-hmm. Kind of similar to the Dr. Pretorius's mermaid that was made out of seaweed instead of other seeds.
Exactly.
But so then they finally like hit on like, this could be a big problem if Frankenstein is just dropping DNA and it's turning into a whole new monster. There might be chunks of DNA all over the place, and these might all grow into giant creatures. We could, be completely overrun by like hundreds of Frankenstein monsters if we don't do something about it.
At that point, it's an existential threat, right? I mean, it's just going to increase exponentially daily. And, they don't really touch on it here, but there's many opportunities later on for there to be thousands of new Frankensteins or Gargantuas running around.
Oh, absolutely. And so, of course, the army's like, maybe we should get the napalm out. We need to just burn everything.
We got to suffocate the cells, right, with fire?
Yeah. And then, like, in distinct contrast to the army, it cuts to these scenes of just, like, teens happily, like, skipping through the forest, singing songs. And you see like, it's almost like it actually looks like a slasher movie at the beginning. Yeah. You got kids like skipping through the woods. You've got kids in canoes like rowing around this little lake, and they're all just singing together. It's just like this really like idyllic sort of environment. And then you have the two doctors, Tagawa and Stewart, who are like, well, how is it, you know, like this seems like they should maybe be a little bit concerned about what's going on in the world. And if it's like, oh, the resiliency of youth, you know, they don't fear death. They're just pure and wholesome, and like they don't have anything to worry about.
Right. They compare this incident with these giant monsters with the Nazi occupation of Paris. So, I mean, personally, this is a little bit of a difference. One, we have forces of nature effectively, and, you know, the evils of mankind. But I guess technically they both could be attributed to the evils of mankind in their own little way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the last movie. It felt like it kind of discussed World War II a little bit in more like reverent tones. This one, this is really the only reference, and it's, you know, it's not necessarily a very apt comparison.
Right. It's like one of these things is not quite like the other.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, as you know, one would assume is going to happen. You know, a Gargantua appears and starts like stomping around and, you know, scaring the teens, and they start running, and, you know, it's you know, chaos. And in the chaotic moment, like, Dr. Tagawa falls off a cliff.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Just run for a few feet and then just slide off the cliff onto
Yeah.
some roots. Okay, well, that's fair.
Yeah. And, you know, it's that very, like, traditional, like, almost, like, cartoonish scene of, like, you know, hanging onto a root off the side of a cliff. And, you know, Dr. Stewart is, like, trying to find a way down to get to her, to rescue her. You know, he's trying to get kind of, like, underneath her safely. But instead, Sanda appears and, like, slides down the cliff, like, injuring himself in the process to get to her, and, like, catches her and sets her down safely.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the actor kind of they did take a bump there when they got to the bottom of it, and I think they just built it into the story, but it looks like he actually did get injured, and then they dropped a few foam rocks on him at the top, but once again, it does look good, so I can't complain too much. I'm being a little mean to something I love.
And, you know, so of course then, like, you know, Dr. Tagawa is like, well, he knows me, like, he clearly does recognize me. So this is our Frankenstein, basically.
Yeah. And of course, he picks her up as gentle as you can and puts her back on the cliff.
Yeah. So then they, like, kind of go, and you get back to the army, and they're like, we're going to kill them both. We're going to use chemical weapons. We're going to destroy all the DNA. Everything's going to be gone. And, like, you've got the doctors being like, no, you know, Sanda is good. Like, he's harmless. Like, he has helped us in multiple instances now. Like, we should save him. We should be able to do research on him and protect him, and, you know, keep him safe from humans and keep humans safe from him. And, you know, obviously the army is not interested in that plan.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, they're definitely down to destroy them both, because that's how you make sure there's no more Frankensteins, right?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I keep saying the army, but they're mainly talking to, like, there's this one general who's sort of like the you know, the mouthpiece of the military in this movie.
Right.
And yeah, he's like, you know, they should both be killed. So then you've got, like, the doctors that night, they're kind of discussing what should we do next. And then, like, sirens go off and lights start turning on all over the city. And suddenly, just like, there's not really any sort of thing that happens to make him think this, but suddenly Dr. Stewart's like, maybe the lights are drawing them in. Like, maybe, you know, maybe Gaira thinks that the light is like a food source.
Anthony,
you know,
I don't want to cut you off. We skipped the whole part. Where Sanda sees that Gaira ate the people.
Oh, yeah.
Hits him with the tree.
Yeah, you're right. I definitely did miss that. They like they have like a small fight. It's, you know, it's kind of like, which is, you know, sort of a common thing for the kaiju movies, is like, you know, we know we're going to get a big, cool fight scene at the end, but we can't wait till the very end. So we need a little bit of something. Yeah. So there's like this part where it's like, you know, we know Sanda, like, rescued Gaira, but then, yeah, as soon as he sees the, you know, this evidence of the cannibalism or whatever, he, like, yeah, he yanks a tree out of the ground and like hits him with it, and then starts this sort of fight. and that kind of happens as it kind of cuts back and forth, and you get that's where you get the doctors and the military talking.
Right.
But I can't believe I'm talking about military conversations when I miss there's a monster fight.
There's a monster fight. Yeah, come on. No, but yeah. So obviously Sanda has the upper hand because Gaira was wounded, and he chases Gaira off. And if anyone has seen Attack on Titan, the way that Gaira runs at this point to jump back in the ocean is very reminiscent of some of the early Titans in Attack on Titan. If you are into the anime,
and if you're into giant monsters, that's the anime to watch.
Yeah, I mean, he's swinging his arms side to side as he's running. It's almost funny, but the monster's terrifying enough that it's not. So.
Yeah.
Then we go back to the next press conference where they're kind of discussing how to deal with the monsters.
Yeah. So and then we end up with Dr. Stewart, that when all the lights come on that night, and he's like, maybe this light is a clue to the creatures that there may be food nearby. Of course, if Gaira is finding these things and is approaching a boat that's lit up or a house that's lit up and finds a human to eat inside, maybe we don't turn on the lights. Maybe maybe having all these lights on is it's like a moth to a porch light or whatever.
Exactly. He's learned that light is where sustenance is now. So
yeah. So then they kind of get this thing where Gaira and Sanda are both sort of seen approaching Tokyo from a distance, and the city's sort of evacuating. Everybody's kind of doing the whole preparation thing. We know they're coming. And while everybody else is running away, you've got Tagawa and Stewart who are we need to go out and see if we can find Sanda and help him, try to protect him from the military.
Right. And I'll give this movie kudos. Kemi Tagawa is way more proactive than the other character that effectively was her in the last movie. She's let's go out. I'm not going to be stopped by Dr. Stewart. We're just going to do this.
Yeah, Bowen in the last movie, kind of, locked her in the apartment and went out to do stuff, and she's like, no, we're going to go help him. Mm-hmm. And in fact, she gets in danger. They see Gaira, they kind of run into a subway platform, go down the stairs, and Gaira reaches in and hits her, and then, Sanda appears, of course, and we get another really great monster fight, and, now we're not out in the woods. Now we're in the city, so we get
Tokyo proper.
Yeah, so we get all of the smashing buildings, and throwing each other into buildings, and all, you get all that, and again, it's that great miniature work where they make the buildings detailed enough that you can believe that they are full size buildings and that these creatures are the size of buildings.
Yeah, and the way they cut out the panels for the buildings as well when they break away, it looks realistic. If you told me that these were two giant monsters fighting in a city, assuming that I didn't live in current day where I know certain things and how they're done, I would believe you. If you showed someone at the time this, they would definitely have said, oh, wow, that's two giant monsters fighting.
Yeah. And, so of course then the army shows up. They've got the tanks out. They start firing. And there's really Tagawa and Stewart realize they're kind of out of their depths here. You've got two giant monsters fighting, and you got a bunch of tanks. Two doctors are not really gonna have any kind of sway over this situation at this point.
But the soldiers, if there was a third movie, spoiler alert, there's not that I know of. This would be where the thousands of other monsters come from, because they blow chunks off of Gaira.
Oh yeah, they're just blasting, and yeah, like you were saying earlier, this movie shows the battle damage, and bits are flying, and so then Tagawa and Stewart are well, at least we could maybe collect some of this DNA for research,
right?
And then the fight sort of rolls towards the water, the creatures are moving towards the water, the military's kind of pushing them that way. You get all the mazers, the vehicles pulling the mazer trailers, and they start firing. And both Gargantuas kind of they're wrestling, and they kind of roll into the water and sort of keep fighting. And the mazers are still firing. And this is, we were talking about the helicopters earlier, which was really cool. Mm-hmm. But then you get this scene,
where they drop the bombs.
When Gaira and Sanda are picking up whole ships out of the ocean and throwing them at each other.
Yeah, just chucking them at each other.
And like, you know, size wise, you got a tank or a helicopter that's like, you know, fits in the palm of one of their hands, you know, but these boats are like, it takes even these giant monsters, it's like two-handed, like lifts up over their head and like throws them at each other. Which is, you know, similar to like the boulders in the last movie, but like these boats are so much cooler than the boulders. Like,
Right,
these aren't just
absolutely.
little rocks. They're just like whole boats.
No, yeah. Like full size, well, not full size models, but they are large models. They are not small chintzy boats. These are probably about 10 pounds of plastic when they were made.
Oh yeah, I would say so for sure.
Yeah. Or resin or whatever they're made with.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they make. That maybe.
We'll have to look into that.
Yeah. Yeah, and so then we cut to like Dr. Tagawa in the hospital, and like Dr. Stewart's visiting her. You know, she's, you know, was injured by Gaira at the beginning of the fight, and you just kind of get that little brief scene with them, and then it kind of goes back to the fight. And you got they're still in the ocean. This is where the choppers drop all the bombs. Yeah, and this is like they're getting hit with all these explosions of bombs and fire, and the bombs set off a chain reaction which causes a volcano to erupt.
Right. Underwater volcano. Then all of a sudden, boom, new island, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, and they're just gone, and, you know, like, there's, like, no evidence of them at all at this point, and, like, so they're believed to be dead from the volcanic heat, and, you know, it's sort of like a perfect sort of solution that, like, we need to get rid of all their DNA.
Right. Except for what's in the city, of course.
Yeah. But theoretically, like, these two creatures are not coming back. You know, their
Right.
DNA might grow into new monsters down the road, but these two have been like sufficiently burned away with all the lava and everything.
Right.
We don't think they're coming back.
And to prove that this is a true Frankenstein movie, no denouement, it's over. That's it. That's it.
Yeah, I think you get like somebody, or you like a little conversation where they're just like, yeah, we believe they're probably dead from the volcano.
Yeah.
And then you get the big kanji, the end you know, and yeah,
It's
last movie kind of had this sort of nice sort of like pan up, and
Right.
you got the forest burning and stuff. But yeah, this one's a quick ending, as we're definitely used to at this point in our look at all these movies.
Right. In our previous review. So I do have a few things that I want to follow up on with this. So I was kind of thinking, you may not know this about me, but I'm a huge yokai fan, right? Or I love mythology in general. But I was kind of like, this reminds me of a few things. First off, there's the umibozu, sorry, which is like just a giant that lives in the ocean, right? And it comes out and it attacks ships. So I'm like, okay, that's where they kind of got Gaira. Maybe that's inspiration for Gaira. But also there's the Yukio-toku, which is kind of like the abominable snowman that, you know, we reference, but also a version of that is found in the water, which may be a little bit more closely related to Gaira. And then, of course, there's the Hebigon, which is more of the traditional mountain version. So it's kind of like they took maybe a little bit of the Yukio-toku and made that brothers with the Hebigon, and kind of used maybe a little bit of yokai in there. Or once again, I'm reading into this too much.
I'm like, in a lot of the movies that we have watched and will be watching, there's, you know, we're going to be having to find some subtext in a thing that does not have much. But I think in this case, I would imagine that you were onto something, you know, with Ishiro Honda again directing this one. Like he's not somebody just throwing a movie together. Like,
right.
You know, I mean, you know, like starting with Godzilla, like he's clearly like, he's not afraid to do horror and sci-fi and monsters, but he has a purpose. Like, and you know, I think every one of these movies has, you know, definitely has stuff as they go, you know, maybe a little less so, but I still think that there's definitely a lot that he's thinking about.
Right. And I think it adds that little bit of extra Japan to the movie, right? I mean, even though it's set there, you know, you've just got giant monsters fighting, so maybe there is something there.
Yeah, I definitely think so.
Yeah, but aside from that, this movie definitely ticked my little kid vibes off, because I remember as a little kid playing in pools and stuff like that, just shaking the little toy boats like Gaira.
Yeah, there's definitely like a playful quality to this movie that is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess that's the thing with like just kaiju movies in general is like, you know, that's the thing that's fun about it is like we all want to kind of pretend to be the monster and smash the thing sometimes, you know, like when you're a kid and you build something out of Legos, the first thing you want to do is break it, you know, you want to stomp on it and be the giant monster that crushes the house.
Exactly.
And so yeah, I mean it's fun to watch. It's just them being like the two of these where you have sort of like the good and the bad side. It kind of lets you sort of explore all of that, you know, like you know, because you know, most people I think are generally good intentioned, but like we also have that part of us that just wants to crush stuff and break things, and you know, we resist that urge. But these movies sort of like give you an opportunity to like live that out on the screen.
It's kind of like the ego versus the id, right? You've got
absolutely.
You've got that little compulsion that's like, what if I were to just break this thing? Fair enough.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's. You know, as far as I know, that may be the last kaiju movie we watch in this series, unless something, you know, new and interesting comes up that is either doesn't exist yet or that I have somehow managed to overlook over the years, which, you know, I'm definitely hoping that doing this project makes me stumble across things that I have not seen.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. But so for now, you know, we'll close the chapter on Toho and the kaiju interpretation of Frankenstein. So next week, so we're getting close to the holiday season, and so I was trying to think of like what would be kind of fun sort of holiday things to look at for us in this podcast. And when you think about holiday movies, one of the things I think most people think about is those Rankin and Bass claymation ones, you know, the Rudolph movie and the like Heat Miser, Cold Miser movie. So those guys, the same people that did those movies, also did a monster movie. It's not quite, you know, holiday theme. There's no snowmen or you know, Santa or anything in it, but it, like when you watch it, it's got the same vibe. You know, the characters have the same sort of like design, and it definitely makes me like puts me in a holiday mood. And that movie, there's two of them. So first, we're going to be watching Mad Monster Party. So we'll do that next week, and then the follow up is not actually the claymation, but it's still the same studio. It's an animated movie, so we'll get to that the week after. But yeah, so for next week, Mad Monster Party, which I think is a little bit. It's a little bit off the beaten path. Probably a lot of people have not seen it, so that might be a fun one to check out if you're, you know, if it's new to you. It has like Boris Karloff in it, as it does one of the voices, and you've got like Phyllis Diller and some comedians and stuff. It's a real interesting one, so I'm excited to get back to that. It's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and if you have any ideas and maybe we missed something, send it to us at thefrankencast@gmail.com.
Yes, absolutely. You can reach out to us there, or, you know, Twitter, wherever, Instagram. Definitely love to hear ideas, suggestions. You know, we're open to hearing what people have to say.
No doubt. Well, I guess there's only one thing left to say, and that's to be continued.
Looks like you survived another episode. The Frankencast is a production of FCR Media. It's hosted by Anthony Bowman and Eric Velazquez. Follow us on Twitter at The Frankencast, or send us a letter at thefrankencast@gmail.com. Our cover art is by Amanda Keller. You can find her at Keller Illustrations on Instagram. Our theme music is by Vivek Abhishek. Thanks for listening.